Thank you so much. As you probably have guessed already, we had a quick security check just now, and that's also the reason why we have two moderators, or a moderator and co-moderator here, because we will be welcoming the governor shortly, and I might have to leave. So please join me and Ashish as we navigate this important discussion on benchmarking. Peter Drucker said, "You can't manage what you can't measure." And to measure, you have to use some data points. And that is what the discussion is all about, is the strategic importance of benchmarking as a tool for achieving excellence. And how many of people, and I would like, will involve the group as well here, I want a show of hands. Do we all agree that benchmarking is important? So I think everybody agrees that benchmark is important. Do you benchmark with your peers, or do you benchmark with those below you and those above you? There are three options here. Either all. Who agree that we should only benchmark against the top? So we have the professor who says we should benchmark against the top. But as per collective benchmarking, to see where you would like to be, you should be benchmarking against everyone to see how far you are from the lower end and how far you are from the top end as well. Now, before I begin, and I think all of us agree that benchmarking is important. Now, I have some statistics here that showcases and we have not done studies in India for this, and that is what this roundtable will start to debate on, and perhaps a study could be done where we could measure whether benchmarking actually impacts various parts of the institution. So the National Institute of Standards and Technology in the US says that benchmarking across all, whether lower, same and top, can lead to incremental or breakthrough change in educational achievement and excellence. And the study was in the US from the NIST, the organization called National Institute of Standards and Technology. Now, what I want to hear from you is, do we benchmark with, which tools do we actually use to benchmark? And I don't want to get into rankings and ratings for now. I want to keep it for later. But are there any best practices where the people on this round table have used, which the general audience could also benefit from? So what is that? And I don't want to go all over because I want this to be collective. So anybody who would like to share with me that very important aspect of benchmarking, which is important, which for you as well. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much.
If you could introduce yourself, because I can't read everybody's names, and I might not be able to, and our audience as well would like to know who you are.
This is Dr. Ebenezer from Hyderabad. I hail from SVKM group of institutions. I would like to state that even before the advent of NEP, we did, as teachers and collaborators of education in our school, have had a loud discussion on, should we prepare children for exams or should we prepare them for life? So this pertinent question actually brought us down to a clear understanding that no matter what the society demands or the parents demand, our endeavor will always be to ensure that children learn the best competencies across subjects, which are different for different subjects. And we have stuck to it right from 2018 when this school in Hyderabad was established. And we are growing exponentially, but yet parents say that your school is set apart. In the sense that for languages we focus more on, let me just give you a brief of it, not going into the depth of it, but languages we focus on LSRW skills plus creative writing. And when it comes to science, we focus on learning, understanding, application, logical thinking, reasoning, and also social responsibility as part of the assessment system. Not in exams I'm talking about. And we are the only school in entire Telangana who is conducting even a written test for physical education, because even theoretical aspect of physical education is required. Because that is very important. Without knowing the rules and regulations of the game, then how they can actually play the game. So these are one side of it. When it comes to the social side, social responsibility is something which we are driving into the children right from day one. So let me just quote, on birthdays children are not allowed to bring sweets or chocolates or anything, but they have to donate a book to the library with a photograph pasted in the book, and they have to bring a sapling, plant it in the school, water it as long as they are in the school. That is
These are best practices.
Yes.
I want to stop you there because I want the discussion to be on excellence.
Yeah,
How
let
do
me
you take
come.
your university, and I would like this to be in less than a minute to 2 minutes so we can involve everybody.
Yeah.
So if you could bring that, you heard you say you're apart from other institutions in your city.
Yes.
So if you could focus on how did you do that with benchmarking? Because you have used benchmarking here.
Yeah, so every year when we make these assessments, we try to understand exactly where the children are lacking, in which competency, rather than saying a child is weak in the cognitive skills of mathematics. We say in mathematics, this particular area. So we are very accurate about saying, okay, instead of saying the child is poor at math, I can say he has problem in algebra, that too at polynomial level. So that level of discrete mapping we were able to do, which has created, yes, now we know the child in grade 4 was having difficulty in basic, mathematical operations. Now in the next year we have to ensure that he moves from that level to the next level. So this is an internal benchmarking which we have done, and it has really helped us. And we see that, until unless we challenge our own self, we cannot progress or we cannot excel. And it has really helped us. Thank you so much.
I'll ask my co-moderator to comment and get the discussion rolling.
Well, certainly, very good afternoon, everyone, and all the panelists. This topic, benchmarking, in fact, benchmarking can definitely have a transforming, effect on education, educational practices that we are following. So this is what all about benchmarking, not essentially a comparison here, but talking about, say, the standard educational practices, learning from each other, and this is what, talking about standards and finally the outcomes. So going back to what you said, Dr. Ebenezer, about focusing more on, say, life skills rather than just assessments or the marks. So it was a wonderful opening remark. Thank you so much. And probably,
I want to probe this again. How do we benchmark the work done in Dr. Ebenezer's school, the SVKM, versus other schools to measure excellence across two different schools? Because what he's doing is great. And in order for other schools to do better, how do we benchmark that practice? Yes.
In fact, in my earlier assignment, I am Professor Xavier, currently with Loyola Institute of Business Administration. So earlier I was Pro-Vice Chancellor, Karunya University. So one of the things we did is we engaged an outside consultant, KPMG, to do a benchmarking study across comparable institutions. So using them, we arrived at new courses we should start, improvements in our assessment, teaching methods, all those things. So that led to a kind of a new strategic plan for the whole institution. But here, of course, we do a lot of internal benchmarking. Each department, is asked to present what their best practices. So we collect the best practices of one department and then ask the other departments to implement that. One conference every day, field activities for students. So in terms of pedagogy, delivery, and so on and so forth. But one concern I have is that benchmarking basically leads to some incremental kind of improvements. If you want a transformative or a breakthrough improvement, then you have to look at benchmarking in a much bigger, larger scope. Go and benchmark companies outside your industry. I would say look at banking and see how they have been disrupted. Look at automobile industry, how they are getting disrupted. So education is not going to remain the way it is today. We all feel comfortable increasing the number of students, doing the batch processing of students. I think all that will go away. So we should really benchmark banking, what new channels have come. Now, how many new channels we have introduced in terms of delivery of education? How do you disrupt? Can we actually Uberize education? So these kind of strategic benchmarks, unless you think, keep your antennas open, look at what is happening around you, you will miss the bus. This is my concern.
Outside industries, that's an interesting point. But in a market in India where we have close to 40,000 colleges and universities, do we need to start looking at outside industries first, or do we need to start looking at where do we get from where we are currently to at least some national or local standards, not even global, local standards? And that's where I want to now bring in the role of external assessments. It could be, again, you've used KPMG. You could be using any model available out there. Are there any particular models which you favor on this table, which have helped you, again, first benchmark within the industry first? Yes.
I'm Vishnu Gaurav. I'm representing MS Dhoni Global School. So I want to start with the quote like we follow in our school, which comes from our mentor. So process is more important than results. And again, coming from our chairman, he always believes if we can't measure anything, we can't grow. So combining both of these things, we firmly believe. So benchmarking should be an integral part of each and every process that we place in every, like when we talk about academics, it involves all the administrative work till all academics as well. So each and every process that we have in our institution should be measured in such a way that we can take it forward in improving the things. So with that, I want to bring in three different perspectives of prerequisites of benchmarking. Before we go directly into benchmarking, we first want to understand how do we define the parameters of benchmarking? Like when we take each and every process, how do we want to define what we want to measure? First thing. Second thing is how we going to measure it? Because measuring comes, since I am from a data science background for a decade plus experience in a corporate company, and I have few patents in that field. So I understand how data works, like collecting primary data versus secondary data and interpreted data. So benchmarking has to be defined first, then how we can measure those parameters has to be defined. Next, after doing the benchmarking, what is the actionable insights we can derive from the benchmarking and keep ourselves improving? That is a key thing. So for us to achieve all these things, the basic thing that we may require in the coming up future is digitalization. So right now we have pen paper assessments and all those things going on. So with the digitalization, like doctor was mentioning about the Bloom's taxonomy, which we use to understand the understanding about the students. So with digitalization, you have a better ability to understand and benchmark each and every students and give more personalized learning.
Three different aspects of like benchmarking, like how to define benchmarking and then how to measure and how to derive it. So are you following any particular processes right now?
Yeah. So benchmarking, as I mentioned, there's a different process for each and every role that works. So I would like to quote an example about the parent engagement metrics that we want to derive. We want to understand how the parents are engaged with the school. Right? So we had different means of, it's not like asking them feedback one day. Selective parents give feedback, and based on that I can understand what is my engagement score with the parents or feedback score. Instead, what we started doing is we have our own ticketing system where parents raise their concerns, and apart from that we do have the parent-teacher meetings which they have. They digitalize the feedback that they give. We do sentimental analysis in understanding what the sentiment are from the parents, and is it positive, negative for each grade and sections. We understand, correlate that with the teachers' performances, and again correlate that with the student performances as well. So this gives a holistic understanding of what is lagging, where is lagging, and how we can improve upon the performances.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rajesh Vasudevan, head of Manchester International School in Coimbatore. I have a different take on what we have been discussing this far. When Ashwin Fernandez asked us, do you all believe in benchmarking? I definitely said yes, but I don't buy the philosophy that we need an external agency to benchmark. The reason being, benchmarking, I feel it creates a divide, or it creates a kind of a competitive edge between institutions. The reason being, we are in a scenario where we need to have, that we are moving from the 21st skills to the 22nd century skills, where none of these factors are visible. Care, community, culture, and connection. These are the 4 factors that are going to thrive, and these are the 4 skills that our students need. If we are going to look at that, whatever metrics that we are talking about, whether it's value for money, leadership engagement, whatever be it, they don't really play in I'm talking from a K to K-12 perspective. So for me, benchmarking is, I joined my institution in 2019 as the head of school, and I've completed 6 years. Where have I taken my school from 2019 to 2023? That's benchmarking for me. How much of student attrition has happened in the past? What is my parent satisfaction graph? What does it denote? How many of my teachers have left in the last 6 years? What are my academic results? If all of these questions are answered in a very positive tone, I think I've done a good benchmarking within the organization. I don't feel that, I'm not completely denying the fact that external agencies are not important, but what I believe in, there's a Japanese term which says that it's called, I do not know if it's the right pronunciation, but it's dantotsu, which means striving to be the best of the best. That's what I believe in as benchmarking. And I don't believe in also the fact that experiences add to benchmarking, because a teacher who joins me, if she comes with 25 years of experience, and she has not changed a bit from the year she started, that is not at all a quality that I can add value to. Whereas a fresher who adds much more value to my students, expertise is much more important than experience. Thank you.
Mr. Vasudevan, well noted on your point. And Ashwin, we've got 2 different points here, so please allow me to take this a little forward. This brings me to an interesting point. I think we should just give an opportunity to everybody, probably to have their point of view on what their benchmarking standards are. We had an external agency, and now an internal that somebody feels that external agency is not at all required. Sure. Can we just give an opportunity to every speaker?
Before that, I want to comment with you as well in this one. It's great to have this, but I want, before we move ahead, because how do you set those internal standards, right? They have to have some benchmark. If you're going to measure, so I think that everybody agrees that the benchmarking can be done internally or by an agency. There is no set, but as long as you're doing benchmarking, that's the whole purpose of this exercise.
Ashwin, the question was, do you all believe in benchmarking? And I definitely said yes. Like if I don't want my neighbor to tell me your roof is leaking, right? I know if it's leaking. Now I can make it a.
Can I just want one second. The former and late Prime Minister of Singapore said, Singapore own self, check own self. You can do that if the system is good inside. So if you're benchmarking, who validates that is the question. Okay, please, sir.
I think we are just talking 2 different topics. I think, benchmarking internally versus our external agency is a different topic. And when we are benchmarking, we need not, like we said, whether we want to benchmark with the higher ups or down, it need not be relative all the time. It need not be relative all the time. For example, if somebody is manufacturing something which nobody else manufactures in the world, are they not going to benchmark? They have to benchmark still, right? So whether the quality of the product has to be measured, okay, we set some standard that this is what has to be achieved in terms of the quality of the whatever we make, and then we can benchmark against that. And obviously the benchmarking is important. We have to measure. When he said his strength is going up from 2019 to 2023, he has used strength as a benchmark there anyway. So the benchmarking is certainly important, but whether we use an external agency versus internal agency, it's just that the comparison he was saying was whether he needs somebody else to tell my roof is leaking versus whether we have an internal strength to do that. That's a different topic altogether, right? So I think benchmarking is necessary and important. Nobody else is debating. Nobody is debating. Whether it has to be relative, it need not be relative with other other institutions. It depends on what we want. And whether we need an external agency is a different, all three different things or three different topics, I believe. And in terms of, I'll just leave it with this particular point. In schools, I think we sort of need external agencies, my take here, because we don't have anything which has created some standards. So even as of now, even within QS or whatever, I have not seen a methodology to measure how a teacher is teaching, right? Whether we can put a mark, or can we say this is the level of teaching quality in a particular class. I don't think we have generated across whether school, college or whatever, the teaching quality measurement. There are a lot of things which has to be done, and you need a larger organization sitting together, thinking this through of how to measure each and every parameter, evolve it, apply it across the platform and measure it. I think that's required when it comes to school. Why I mentioned specifically school is colleges are having a lot of different benchmarking panels, like for example, NIRF ranks you, your NAC ranks you, NBA ranks you. In fact, we are crying in colleges saying that you just have too many people coming around us and benchmarking us is how we comply when it comes to colleges. But in schools, we don't have that. So whether we keep it private, whether we compare it with others, whether we use internal agency versus our own agency is all different topics. But then we need a collective mechanism to evolve good measuring methodologies and parameters. There is no doubt about it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. But I'll just make my question once again very clear. Of course, you are saying external, internal, two different things. My question was simply, like, in very simple terms, what are our standards for benchmarking? How do we define benchmarking? So I'll go one by one. Okay, ma'am, we'll start with you, Ms. Merchant. We can start. We will go this way then.
So here you are talking about internal benchmarking and external benchmarking. I think both these kinds of benchmarking add value to our systems, processes, and practices in school. While the external benchmarking has metrics and criteria, so one question was, how do we get those metrics for internal benchmarking? How do we validate that? I think in the simplest form, the vision and the mission of the school becomes a benchmark, the first benchmark. You know, when we start an organization, or when we come together, you know, to kind of review what we are doing, there's always this vision statement and mission statement. This is what we want to achieve, and this is what we want our organization to look like. Plays a very important role in how we proceed. So I think at the very basic level, that becomes the validation factor, whether we are aligning ourselves to the vision and mission of the school. Now, how do we do that? Now, for example, if if as a school I believe in, let's say, student-centric, practices, so then to break it down to what does student-centric mean, and I've seen this very often. Most of the organizations look at it as, we will offer courses or whatever, and students. Differentiation practices in classrooms because we want to cater to every kind of the students. So, but student-centric practices are way beyond these, differentiation and other pedagogical. So, so then, if I have benchmark student-centric practices, what does it look like in practice? Okay. So, one, of course, it means that every child must succeed. We have to create practices in such a way that we have to enable every child to succeed, or we have to empower every child to succeed. Now, to do that, work backwards, what do we need to do? So, should we have, competency mapping for every child after a particular grade to see what will be the most suitable course for the child? And have a dialogue with the child rather than to impose it on the child. Here again, student agency plays a very important role. Again, an integral part of student-centric organization. So what I'm trying to say is that at the very basic level for internal benchmarking, we could use our own first thing, vision and mission. Then of course there are various layers. We look at departments, we look at within the industry, school A is doing this and school B is doing this, best good practice, kind of how can we collaborate to come together to enhance performance as school. And then of course outside of industry also somebody mentioned, which again is a very, very relevant point. I think as school leaders, we have to keep our ears and eyes open to what is happening in the other industries also, not in terms of just employability or skill building, but also to see what is there in that sector happening, as a practice which we can incorporate it in our school system. It could be in the admin department, it could be in the HR department, it could be even in the academic department. So, so that for me is a validation for internal benchmarking. External, I completely am for it because as school leaders, we kind of have certain blind corners, in the sense that our focus kind of, even if we want to kind of have broad focus for what is happening inside of the school, but our day-to-day routines get such that we end up focusing only on areas which matter to us immediately now and in the short term. So if there is an agency which comes and kind of does the audit and tells us, okay, look, these are the things maybe where you are strong in, and these are the things that you need to work on, it is helpful for the schools. And very often I've seen that school leaders and principals, they hesitate to kind of have these kind of audits done or have an external agency to, come and do the checks. But I think it is very important for us to know what we're doing right, but it's equally important for us to know what else can we do to improve ourselves, and to share the results with the teachers and also with the parents, because again, parents to know the organization okay, the school has reached this level, but is aware that these are the areas also that they must work on, and it speaks of the growth mindset of the school rather than being fixated on what I'm doing. And I would definitely urge schools who have been there for 40 years, 50 years to also get.
Ma'am, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I'm interfering here, but we'll just continue this discussion probably in the next set of questions. But I completely agree with you, and I buy your point that yes, external agencies do help. In fact, when we do these audits with their help and these results, because any times when you have an external agency coming in, any kind of biases or of course those standards or benchmarks that we are trying to set can definitely be looked into in an unbiased way. We'll continue with you, sir. Please just have a brief introduction.
Good afternoon, all of you. I am Dr. Krishna Kumar, the director of RVS Group of Institutions. We have 100+ institutions. I am from the rural area. When we are talking about the benchmarking, I am more concerned about internal benchmarking. Because, first of all, 4 stakeholders are there: the management, parents, students, and the company who places our students. Management should be first of all happy. How can they be happy? If the 100% enrollment is there, they are very happy as far as higher education institutions are concerned. Because in Tamil Nadu we have 442 institutions. You can see almost there are 20% of institutions where the enrollment ratio is less than 20%. So the benchmarking, first of all, should make the management happy. They should be having very good financial income through 100% enrollment. Then parents should be happy on seeing the successful outcome of their wards. Ultimately, students should be happy inside the campus. They have to have comfort and conducive atmosphere inside the colleges or any institutions so that they can learn, comfortably all the parameters, not only academics, both cultural as well as all co-curricular activities. And the company people who are recruiting our students, they should be happy if our students are continuously working over there, not jumping out of the companies frequently. So, I am more about internal benchmarking. We have to benchmark for performance, process and practices. We have, very well that any management will say for the enrollment, it is 100%. That is the first benchmark. And the academics output is measured by the university ranking. Every year the university is releasing the college-wise academic ranking. That is taken as the benchmark for our academic output. And, the company placements. We say 100% placement, but it's actually not true. Many of the colleges are claiming that they do 100% placement. But we can say 100% students who are placed are eligible students. There will be some 30 to 40% students who are below par level. They could not even pass the written test of any company. But they won't say those things. They simply say 100% placement. So this benchmarking, whether through the internal arrangements or through the external agencies, it is very much mandatory, as our Ashwins are clearly pointed out earlier. And as far as the internal benchmarking is concerned, we have our own standards, we have our own data, because our RVS group is 40 years old. It was established in the year 1984. We have our own set of parameters for all the functions. Now I am more concentrating on functional benchmarking. A faculty has to teach properly. Sir has correctly mentioned the senior people are experienced, but they do not have expertise. It's a really great point. Now we are training the senior faculty members towards center of this academic excellence. So in this context, functional benchmarking should be done immediately in all the colleges. Then we can benchmark all the performance as well as practices. This is my kind view.
Thank you very much for your views.
I'll not take much time. See, IQAC cell in colleges is very much there. So
Yes.
internal quality assurance cell is always there in colleges. Only in schools we don't have that division and clarity. So I think one thing is, whenever we are talking, I think we should separate the school and college, because these are two different
That's why I did
platforms.
not mention the IQAs, because schools, they do not
We
have.
may not even be making a relevant thing. I forgot one thing. I'm Dr. Madan Sendil from Ratnam Group Chairman.
Thank you.
But we have leaders from both as well as from higher education. So obviously they will be putting forward their point. I'll again bring our discussion back to our own standards of benchmarking, what do you feel? And in fact, benchmarking, let's say, there are different ways of benchmarking. It helps us in, say, being more innovative. It helps us in bringing, international best practices. Of course, there will have to be some kind of, comparison involved at times. But it's basically for our own improvement. Like when we sit with, at the beginning of the year, let's say I sit for the school improvement plan. I mean, this is an exercise, we do it every year, right? So SIP, school improvement plan. Now, when we sit with that, there are a lot of standards, of course. There are internal, external, I mean, that's another debate, of course. So probably I'll bring our discussion back to this track, that fine, what are your standards for benchmarking? And say out of these different ways, what do you feel the outcomes of benchmarking can be? Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. They say perfection is the goal, but excellence is tolerable. This is what Joe Yale said, and I quote him. And there is one more person by name, Vince Lombardi. He says perfection is not attainable, but when you chase it, you will at least land up with excellence. So what we do at our schools, and which I feel can be replicated or can be amplified further, is we follow this basic principles of physics called as reflection, refraction and diffraction. Reflection in the sense we start reflecting on our own where we were and where we are. Say Usain Bolt, if we take for example 2008 Olympics, 2012 Olympics and 2016 Olympics, he has broken the world records. When someone interviewed him and asked, Ki, how were you able to do? He said, like, after the Olympics get over, I take 8 days break, and on the 9th day, I start preparing for the next Olympics. I reflect where I went wrong, and I watch hours together my own videos of my sprint and see where I have landed properly, where I just twisted my toe, where I put my ankle wrong. So when you reflect, it gives you a real insight of where it's not about how far we have come, rather like it's the kind of transformative impact that we have created through our reflection. Now when I say after reflection, there is something called as refraction. Look at the bends. So when you are moving from one level to another level, are there any bends in the perspective that you look at your own organization? So if those bends can be corrected, and if you are able to adjust all those bends, all those lacuna, all those issues which you need to address to come towards perfection, obviously when a test and a baptism of fire comes in the process of somebody, internal or an external agency, making an assessment to you through that tiny slit, you will come across like a beautiful rainbow when you are diffracted through situations. So this is what we try to do it. So these three things that we follow. Another aspect that I would like.
Sir, can I interrupt you? I mean, we have a lot of other speakers. We'll come back to you, please. Yeah, thank you. Over to you, sir. Please introduce.
Happy afternoon. I'm Dr. Prem Shankar, chairperson of Holy Sai Institutions. We are in two cities, Chennai and Coimbatore. The first and foremost thing is the benchmarking, what we are discussing about, and what is the outcome we are expecting. At the end of the day, if you could understand what is the outcome we expect after benchmarking. So internal assessment, external assessment, of course, I agree with all these things, because when we thought of initiating a school in 2007, the first and foremost thing what came in our mind is to have an SOP. What we are going to do and how we are going to do, with whom we are going to do. So working with the parents, working with the teachers, and we call it as a golden triangle. The school, the parent, and the student. So that's how we started working on, and we are so successful in the field of education in our location. With the internal assessment, of course, as Sir said at the beginning, anything and everything to be measured. If we don't measure something and we don't get the data, and if we don't get the data, you cannot understand what you're doing. If you don't understand what you're doing, there's no purpose of doing. So data is very much required. And if the assessment is from an external body, like the company with whom we are today, that's much better, because the internal assessment, the past 16 years we are doing the internal assessment, and we assess ourselves with what we know. But we feel that the company like you people know better than us, because you meet so many schools, colleges, and you collaborate with so many people. So it's always better to sign with you people. Why I'm telling this is, most of the schools, they feel that, or they believe that the banner or the digital representation, digital media is going to give them business, or they are going to elevate the school. That's not the real story behind. Your parent is a brand. Your parent is believing you as a brand, and your parent is branding you. So you are working for your parent, and if you are working for your parent, 100% you can benchmark your institution. And India has proven the benchmark from 8th century. The proven example is the Nalanda University, where we had hostels, and from 8th century to 13th century we were so successful. In Nalanda University, a lot of students from various countries have studied there with the hostel facilities, and we could see in the history. And even now, the Indian origin people are ruling the world. So we are benchmarking even now. So this is my message for the day.
Thank you so much. You brought in some, like bringing in qualitative and quantitative, basically this is what you spoke about. So we'll take this discussion forward with you, sir, please.
Hello. Yeah, good afternoon to one and all. This is Johnson Matthew, Dean Academics for Hindustan International Schools, Chennai. previously having worked in Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangathan for a period of 35 years and retired as an assistant commissioner. In this journey of 40 years, nearly around 39 generations, and after listening to all the discussion, to achieve the excellence and to attain the progress with our human resources, the question that Johnson is asking as a Dean Academics for my school, whether you have retained the human nature of your children. Without securing the human nature, what God has given to each one of us, all your excellence and all your progress and your benchmarking, when it comes to your academics, non-academics, will be a vain attempt. The founder of Hindustan International School, late Dr. KCG Verghese, while setting up his initial move to start aeronautic institution, which he had started 60 years before, his vision was very simple: every man a success and no man a failure. I repeat, every man a success, no man a failure. Today, the group has grown to 20,000 students with more than 9 units, including technical institution. The present team of trustees, they have extended the services to schools. In all the 3 schools where I am looking after the academics, in order to give that excellency, excellent and progressive growth to my children, I was just looking back to Bharatiyar's prescription for our students, Mahakavi Bharatiyar. 100 years before, he had given this to all the students' community when India was not a free country. I first repeat it in Tamil and then I'll give an English translation. Whether your children, Tinniya Nenjam Vendum, Telinda Arivu Vendum, Enniya Mudidal Vendum, Nalladaye Ennal Vendum. What he prescribed, every institution should churn out your children without any fear, fearless mind. Each one of us sitting here, head of institutions, head of various branches of an institution, are we churning out such fearless mind? Morning session we heard IIT Chennai, the last 1 semester, 4 deaths. Is it the fearless mind? Is it the resilience quality that you have benchmarked for your children? And if it has to start from school. Telinda Arivu Vendum, whether the wisdom and knowledge that is imparted to your children, whether in school, whether it is pre-primary, primary, secondary or senior secondary, or in colleges, is it a clear knowledge? Is it a knowledge which will withstand them to face the future? The answer that I give for our own parents who have raised all of us, were they not successful with the knowledge that they obtained when the education was not to that extent developed? This is a question to all of us. The knowledge that is imparted, it has to be clear, both knowledge and wisdom. Enniya Mudidal Vendum, Bharatiyar, very economically a weak person, he lived a poverty life. But his verses, his poetry today, whoever handles it, they are all millionaires. He says, whatever we think, it should happen. Children should have this feeling, as APJ Abdul Kalam has prescribed, our children should dream. Are we allowing them to dream? And that dream, is it becoming reality? And finally, the prescription, Nalladaye Ennal Vendum. What he thinks should be good for him as well as for his state and for his country. If we can make a benchmark for this fundamental things among our children, automatically the scholastic skills and all other essential skills will be embedded in them and they will become the best citizen is what I am trying in a very humble way in my institution. To give few examples, yesterday we had a mock G20 session in both my Cambridge school as well as in CBSE school. And today in my absence, all arrangements were made and Grandparents' Day, especially for the pre-primary classes, is being held in all the 3 schools. So these are small things in our daily calendar. If we can add, these values will give strength to our children to become tomorrow's best global citizens. Thank you.
On how to make these children grow into better citizens. In fact, we all educators are humbly called the nation builders. I mean, we are the ones who are actually working with the current generations to turn them into the good citizens, better citizens, and probably the best ones. So great points covered here, like how to retain the human nature of children, and are we really churning these fearless minds? So definitely, yes. The most important thing is, are we really helping these children to live their actually childhood and enjoy their childhood? Are we really, somewhere we feel that yes, there are a lot of pressures. But coming back to benchmarking and how we define our benchmarking standards, over to you, sir.
I'll be brief here. I've been managing institutions for over 20 years now. 3 things that has worked for me. One is,
So, sorry, can you introduce yourself, please, once to the audience?
I'm Professor Xavier, I'm currently with Loyola Institute of Business Administration. Yeah. So, 3 things that have worked for me. One is the stakeholder survey. When I join an institution, I do it every semester. Students, faculty, parents, recruiters, and I see the progress. This has helped me a lot. Second thing I do is product benchmarking. I look at what the competing institutions are offering. So I put my students to collect what new things are coming up. So every year we try to add new courses. Third thing that has worked for me is the process benchmarking, where what I do is I send my students and faculty on exchange programs to the institutions where we want to benchmark. So they go there, study the processes and bring them back. But above all, I think what Mr. Johnson Matthew was saying, that you should not all the time be on the catch-up mode, trying to benchmark against what others are doing and build your own uniqueness. You must be careful about that. What is that uniqueness you want to build? When I took over as the director of IIM Ranchi, all the IIMs were trying to cater to multinationals. I said, IIM Ranchi will cater to Indian multinationals. So I said, my students will be prepared only for Indian companies. So we gave a lot of Indian case studies. And that gave us, advantage in terms of getting into Mahindras and a lot of Indian companies. So even today, I think, they get lots of placement from these companies. So you should never forget that you should not always aim to become, Shah Rukh Khan or Nayantara or something like that. You should build your own uniqueness and then bring it out. That's my point.
Good. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing about your product and process benchmarking, where you take inspiration probably from others, try to bring those best practices back to your own institution. Thank you so much. And of course, focusing more on the Indian MNCs that has been there. Rajesh, sir, would you like to add on something, or can I move to Chit?
I'll just quote one point and then I will let the other speakers have their chances as well. See, every organization has a culture, and that culture is their benchmark. Though the word benchmarking excites a lot of action, it brings a lot of excitement actually. But I feel that excellence is overly celebrated and the process is unfairly condemned. Thank you.
Thank you. Interesting. So, Chitra.
Happy evening. I'm Chitra Prasad, correspondent, NSN Group of Schools. NSN is a 55-year-old school, and sometime very close to the Golden Jubilee celebration of the school, we thought that we should do something to scale higher. We've always been comfortable in our comfort zone and very happy about what we were doing, but we wanted our practices to be validated by a third party. So we all know that anything that can be measured can only be monitored. And anything that is monitored can only be directed. And anything that is directed can only be controlled, and only then it will lead to progress. So we thought we need to measure our performance. So we thought we will go for an external agency, because I feel that we also do the analysis for the last 3 years. We call it trend analysis, to see where we have improved and which is the area we have not improved. But we wanted to measure and we wanted to see how we were doing and to bring about some kind of accountability. When I measure my own performance, probably there isn't so much accountability as there would be when an external body comes to assess us. So through the Quality Council of India, we got our school accredited about 6-7 years back. And every year there is a surveillance. So when there is a surveillance, throughout the year, we keep seeing which are the areas we need to work upon. So that brings about accountability to all the process owners. And I think you need to just fix the purpose and then intensely attach yourself to the process. Because it is the process which gives you the results. So there's no point in focusing on the result. If you can focus on the process, and there if there is excellence in process, I think that will lead to benchmarking or excellence. I must say that our school was benchmarked for values. Normally schools take credit for the teaching learning process, okay, but I think values is something eternal. We prepare students for life. We are not a school which prepares students only for the board examination, because there is a long life children have to live after school. So how are we preparing them for life? And I was very happy to know that we've been benchmarked for values. So trend analysis happens every year, twice a year, 2 terms. And the surveillance happens every year. And I think I should know where I am now, where I want to go, and how do I reach there. And for that, they have the 50-point checklist, and it's a scale of 1 to 5. And very rarely schools are given 5, and we have been constantly getting year after year 5 for values, and very proud about that. Thank you.
That's really great to know about, like, you being benchmarked on values and how these values were quantified and all that. I'll come back to that probably in our next set of questions, next round. But very interesting discussion from you that you need to come out comfort zone and scale up a little higher, where, you know, like you something that can be measured, can be monitored, and finally, you know, controlled, and you achieve success. So that's lovely. And probably Professor Narayanan, over to you now.
Good evening to all, respected panelists and panel members. I am Professor Sriman Narayanan, Vice Chancellor, Wales Institute of Science, Technology and Advanced Studies, shortly known as VISTAS and previously known as Wales University. And I am happy to be here, and I am thankful to the QES for inviting us to this function. And if you look at the topic, the strategic importance of benchmarking as a tool for achieving excellence. So you will find the excellence to be achieved. It is there for individuals, it is for an industry, and it is for the institutions. Because most of us here, you will find that we are all directors, deans, vice chancellors. So we have achieved something in our life. So we have set some benchmark for us from other faculty members, because you will find that there are thousands and lakhs of faculty members in the country, all having come to this position. So similarly, if you look at the industries, you will find in every quarter, the quarter profit this much, where their excellence is decided by the quantum of revenue that they have generated. But when you come to the institutions, see, when we talk of institution, it means the education institutions starting from the KGs up to the higher education level, and you will find that mostly I agree with what Dr. Krishna Kumar has told. For example, in the high school sector, see, because the benchmark is not only for excellence, it is also for survival. So survival comes first, then comes the excellence. For example, in schools, particularly for higher secondary school, you will say which is the best school? The school which produces 100% result. So there, the quantity matters, not the quality. They will say 100% in all the classes, all the 12th standards. So they are considered as the best school in the cities. Or they will take the credit that their students are state rank holders. So therefore, only in the case of rank holders, the quality comes, but in other words, it is a quantity. But you go back to the kindergarten schools, they won't say this is the best school where all the kids will get passed. But they would look at the infrastructure, what is available there. Whether their children have a pleasant stay in the school. Whether the teachers are going to be very lovable or very adorable by the students. There the quality comes. So the quality is changed to quantity when we come to higher education. Again, the high school education. When you go back again, when you move forward to higher education, again you will find we don't concentrate on the number of passes, but rather we give importance for the number of placements. In most of the newspapers you can see 100% placed or placement is assured. So there the concept of benchmarking is changed. So therefore, particularly the higher educational institutions to work towards that. First it is for the survival, then it is for the excellence. So when we go for getting the placement, so what are the various domains that we have to look or provide for the students? Like giving a good subject knowledge. So we have to concentrate on the domain and a good technical skill, whether we have good laboratories or whether we have good interaction with the industries where we can send our students for internship to the industries, and then a good communication skill for them. So these are the areas that we have to check it out. So far, to check out these, in most of the institutions, we have the internal quality assurance cell, which is not available in most of the schools. So that cell takes care of the benchmark that has to be followed in most of the institutions. So now the question comes, sir, how do you know the benchmark? How do you decide yourself? And most of the higher educational institutions have gone for accreditation in one way or other with one of the agencies, particularly either with NAC or NBA or some other thing. So therefore, they know where they stand in comparing other institutions. And they also get the feedback from the NAC where we are weak. So it is a quality, internal quality assurance cell which gives or fixes the benchmark for higher educational institutions. So that is being followed in all the higher educational institutions. So therefore, the benchmark is to be decided based on the strength and weakness of all the institutions. So in this accreditation process or in the ranking process and in the rating process also, all the educational institutions are not very happy about it because they feel they are in different platform, but they are evaluated with the same type of questionnaires or whatever it is. For example, if you run a 100-meter race in a ground, you will find that all the people will start from the same location. But if it is going to be a 200-meter or 400 meters where they have to come for a circle, you will find their locations will in different spots. But what the higher educational fields, even for the same 100 meters, they are in different locations and they are allowed to run for different distances. So that is a matter altogether, a different one. So therefore, whatever benchmark that is required for the higher education is decided by the IQAC of each institution, and they get some feedback from the external agencies. Again, external agencies also, you cannot say that they are very accurate, because the evaluation is only subjective. Because some of the institutions which have scored in below 10th rank in NIRF, they were not able to get A++ when they were evaluated by the NAC. They got only A. So therefore, because the evaluations are very subjective in nature, see, we cannot say that any rating or any accreditation is 100% foolproof. So there is a variation, but still we get an idea where we stand and where we have weakness and where we have to put our effort. So these are my opinions.
Thank you so much. And that was the first round. In fact, you said benchmark is actually the survival comes first, and then comes excellence. So, in fact, that reminds me of something. I'm sure majority of us must have heard the name of Amin Sayani and Kishore Kumar, the legendary singer. So once Amin Sayani had asked him in an interview that Kishore da, who is your competitor, or whom do you have your competition with when it comes to singing? And Kishore Kumar replies, myself. So he said that, in fact, and it's something really, very interesting that yes, I am my own competition, that I want to be a better version of myself, probably when I look at myself a year ago. So thank you very much, panelists, for this first round of discussions. And now the second round is about ratings and rankings we'll be talking about, and of course assessments. They play a very significant role in shaping the educational landscapes, especially of schools. So I'll pass on the baton to Ashwin for the time being. Let him take over, because I think then you'll be moving, so probably you'll take over and then I'll take it forward then.
So I have been hearing a lot about assessments, and he brought a good example of Kishore that if Kishore sings in his bathroom and nobody else hears him, how are we going to benchmark his singing against others, right? So there has to be a common sharing of data, at least among institutions. Now, India doesn't have this, but have we, and this is the thought for you all, and I know we want to go on rankings, and I will keep that thought a little bit aside, because we all know the rankings are there, and they're there for a purpose. But have we thought of a common data set in India for schools, colleges, and universities, where we all feed in our performance metrics into the system, beyond the NRF in this case? And this is what some universities in the US are doing, in Europe are doing, in Australia are doing. They feed into a common data set. And this is probably where this could be something we could be looking at for the future, is we agree what is that benchmarking do we need to do, and feed into a common data set. But for now, we of course have rankings and ratings for that purpose. And we know the perils of each of these systems, right? But I want to hear any case studies from your institution, particularly with rankings. And I think schools that we do have some rankings on a national level. I don't think we have any international school rankings. So anything particular as a case study in rankings, which any school or university in this case has to share, where they've used their data already and tried to go one level further with that?
Right now, for all the CBSE schools, before the advent of NEP, they've started something called as SQAF, that is School Quality Assessment and Assurance Framework. Now, this is a common platform and a common benchmarking tool which both assesses quality and quantity levels when it comes to the entirety of the school. And this presently for CBSE schools, it gives an overall score. It's not ranking, rather it gives a score on a scale of 10, like where the school stands. It's a kind of an internal assessment of the school with the CBSE. So they have this, and it's not shared with other schools saying that on SQAF, say X school is rated this and Y school is rated this. It's between the CBSE board and the school saying that yes, on a scale of 10, we the CBSE would like to give you a score of say 7.5 or 8.2. This QOF is a national level kind of thing that's happening right now. International level at the schools right now we do not have, but of course, I mean, NABET and QS is doing great, and there are lot of things coming in on the same magnitude of NABET as well as QOF. Agency, watching them. Like just now you were mentioning ki if nobody heard Kishorda, then how would we be rated as the best singer? Similarly, if there were no Olympics, then Usain Bolt would have been just running in the streets, probably supplying Zomato or some other products, of course. And Tendulkar would have been still playing in the streets of Wadi or somewhere. So had it not been for one level where like he reaches there and then he's projected. So of course these rankings will help an organization project where they stand and where they can go. So obviously we have to have this standard benchmarking which is done by CBSE plus have another agency do it. Because CBSE doesn't reveal it to the entire world saying that this school has scored so much. It's between school and only the CBSE board.
I want somebody to take on Dr. Ebenezer on that, on the other side. I mean, this is discussion here. What do you think you have learned, which probably is maybe a negative experience of benchmarking? And anybody could take this question. Yes, please.
So I think I would like to agree with Dr. Ebenezer first. Like there should be an internal system to give a reflection about what we are first. But how it is done is a question. Because like I do have sports facility or I do have interactive classrooms, etc. Does it mean that the services are used at the highest level and it's been utilized by the student and they are gaining the outcome out of it? Is again, how do we measure that? So that moves from our quantitative measurements where we do with how many passed out from year on year, how many people scored the highest mark from this goal. So these are all quantitative measurements that we use today. But how to move from there and go towards a qualitative measurements about what is the student's engagement at school? So when we mean engagement, how do we define it? How do we measure the engagement? For example, for sports, there are a lot of research going on. Can we have a chip-based T-shirt which measures how much distance the child has traveled in that particular day? So that gives us the engagement that the child had the entire day and even the sports period. So how do we start measuring the qualitative side of it and then relate it with the overall outcome might be a good approach moving forward.
Please.
See, I think the biggest risk would be to use a benchmarking without maturity. I think if you measure it wrongly, then the biggest risk is that we go in the wrong direction, right? So if you don't have a right thermometer and if it shows that you have fever when you don't have a fever and you get treated, it can be worse than not getting treated. So certainly the benchmarking is important, but then as an organization, it might need a lot of maturity before it's adopted. But the risk is that if we don't have a mature model of doing a benchmarking, there's a huge risk in doing that. That's something which we are all facing, whether it is NAC or NIRF or I don't know about, QS, international ranking, we have not faced. So all these things are landing us up in certain rankings, and where we internally benchmark ourselves, we feel that we are X versus what this benchmark is, and this is landing us up in a market risk and things like that. I think that's the confusion which is landing the country in as of now when it comes to benchmarking and ranking. That's the risk. Good. You go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Please continue. Yeah.
High level of stress induced among students as well as faculty members. Whenever you start comparing, we normally nowadays every parent is being taught that you don't compare your children with others' performance. It will unnecessarily create stress among them, and even they may lose their originality. So this is the first aspect as far as the individual performance of student is measured through benchmarking. And second one is, as far as the accreditation process or any other benchmarking process taken to measure the performance of faculty members, they are also getting stressed. So, to avoid that, we have to give some time frame, train the faculty members suitably, mold them, then we can introduce all the system of benchmarking in a smooth manner. Then we can get some positive results. We can avoid all negative results. But at any cost, the benchmark will never affect either whether the management or other the company who are recruiting the people. Only the students and faculty members are getting stressed. Today morning we have all discussing about mental wellness and health and all. That will be affected because of this benchmarking.
Yes. Be simple, effective, to not do this.
And contextualized, I think.
Okay.
Just would like to extend what sir was saying. So that stress comes because you are becoming very conscious about somebody's checking. Rather, when it gets into your DNA and when it's your regular practice, I don't think that it will have that kind of an impact when it comes to quality consciousness. So usually, I mean, even when somebody says like there is a sudden inspection from the education board, then we try to hush up and say clean everything. When you do it every day, why should you be just worried about the coming on X or Y? So why act up? Why don't we emulate that in our DNA and we do it every day as a part of our routine instead of just hushing up on a day before of inspection kind of thing?
I think Rajesh sir wanted to add on to something.
No, actually, the very point what Dr. Ebenezer said, like you don't have to put up a show to impress anyone. That's exactly what I've been trying to state right from the beginning. See, if you look at, there's a Robert Brooke in his book, Man versus Man, and when he has very neatly given a definition about change and transformation. And transformation is very internal, and change is cosmetic. If you're trying to make changes according to someone else's prescriptions and comparisons, it is not going to last long. Transformation is like Rajesh 1 becoming Rajesh 2. But the core remains the same. The culture must remain the same. Whatever. So, if we are trying, and I would like to bring this analogy of the lemon and spoon race. In lemon and spoon race, what are we trying to measure? Are we trying to give are we trying to parallel in success with someone who reaches first or someone who balances the lemon till the end of it? Who is successful there? One who balances the lemon till the end, not someone who comes first. Right? That is what I would like to point here. So you don't have to become the top to be valued as number one. If you're able to sustain with your practices, if you're able to bring in transformation, not only in the organization, but in the teachers, in all the stakeholders. That is what I believe excellence synonymous with whatever we have discussed. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And in fact, see, there is no point in taking any kind of stress when it comes to, what I personally believe in is that when we are having, say, benchmarking standards or quality checks, this holds us accountable. This is all related to accountability of the school and the organization, and this adds on to the value, basically. Now, any board, let's say, for example, CBSE or Cambridge or IB or ICSE, they do have, periodic, checks. They do keep visiting your schools. So if we are stressed, means we are not prepared. So let us be prepared, every day and, every time. So there is no need of any kind of pressure that it adds additional pressure or stress on children or on the staff members. So if we are ready, we are ready. I mean, it's always like that. Because I personally feel like, with these quality checks, we as school and school leaders, we are made more responsible and accountable towards providing this quality education. So you wanted to add something, I believe.
It's to bring down stress in any institution. It can be school or college. It's a better way to pay the staff more. So they will be so comfortable and they bring the stress lesser in the student level. and the parent will also be comfortable and stress-free. That's a better plan.
Well, not always. Of course, I take your point, and
You cannot motivate someone from throwing a bone, right? It's come from within. I always believe in that. So probably I might sound controversial all the time, but I am happy the way I am. Thank you.
It
I
is
think
not
stress
the...
is a word they keep using very fashionably now. They like to use the word stress. I had a second standard child coming and telling us, my life is bad. Second standard, something is happening here and my life is bad. Nothing good is happening in my life. I'm stressed. Second standard. So this is all from the adult world that they hear these words every day and they just use it just like that. They don't mean it. And I don't think there is so much stress. When you're very competent, when you're very passionate about something, stress is never there, part of your vocabulary at all. How passionate are you? How competent are you? Then there is no stress. It's all brought in by us. It's not the world that is creating stress for us.
One of our neighboring schools, like the principal was interacting with me and saying like, my teacher gave me a stress because we hiked their salary. She took the pay slip, went and joined another school. So this school had bigger stress than what stress the teacher who left had. So it sometimes, punches us back when strongly.
see here, just there's a simple difference between pressure and stress. So that's what we need to differentiate. Pressure we all can manage, and we should be able to handle pressures, work pressures. When it comes to stress, yes, actually stress is on another extreme, but yes, as you rightly said, it's such a common term now. It's becoming fashion to throw this word, that, okay, I'm stressed out. Actually, you're not stressed out. Maybe you're not able to manage your work pressure, but that isn't essentially stress. So, in fact, what I would just quickly sum up on benchmarking, probably from our discussions, that yes, though there are, two sides of internal and external benchmarking, some ways of benchmarking we all agree upon, and sometimes where we feel is that yes, an external agency can really be very helpful because they have certain sets of parameters which we may not be aware of or which we may not be doing actually. So an external agency will always be very helpful. Some ways in which benchmarking is done, what I've summed up is like identifying best practices, which probably you all would agree. It helps us in quality improvement, bringing in innovation, accountability, policy formulations, in fact, and the global collaborations as well, as and when required. So these were certain ways in which benchmarkings can be set up. Now, when it comes to, say, the ranking systems, the school rankings, so primarily, like you all just agreed that yes, there is some kind of accountability which is required in schools. Do you agree that when we have these ranking systems or school ratings, now let's say international ratings, will it help schools to build, say, better schools, better competition or healthy competitions? Some better resource allocation or mobilizing resources, say, within the schools. What are your thoughts on these? Like when we have these rankings or basically the rating systems in place, let's say done by external agencies. So what are your thoughts? Anybody can add on to it. Will it really help on like building, say, healthy competitions, resource mobilization? What are your views?
We have too less maps and too many compasses. But ranking definitely, we are all subjected to different ranking. But I feel that there is less that we are able to understand from these rankings. Because if you're looking at the previous year's ranking, you would have ranked a certain degree for value-based, the value for money, if I'm just taking one of the components. But then when you sustain it, the next year's ranking, that goes down and we do not know for what reason it has gone, because there's no clarity that is given to us. Certain parameters are decided and certain numbers are attributed to it without even defining what they are. So I personally don't believe in ranking system because, again, we can do improvements definitely on ranking because India as such a nation, we are very performance oriented. We don't appreciate effort. We only appreciate the performances. So ranking is basically appreciating the performance and not the effort. These rankings do tell us many things. A lot of narratives are there behind these rankings. But how consistent these rankings help institutions to improve, I mean, that's again a debatable thought. Thank you, Ashish.
Thank you very much. Else would like to add on to this? Yes, ma'am, sure.
I agree with sir that I don't know, ranking, I'm not really very sure, but rating definitely well-being of the teachers, management and everything. I think rating, I would say that it's a better way of going about it. In rating, I don't think we compare each other, right? We just are looking at ourselves and saying, okay, these are my strengths and these are the areas that I need to work on. And also if there is a possible, insights to what should I do to kind of improve my rating in the areas where I have gaps.
CBSE has come up with SQUAF, where the rating is shared with the school but not with everyone. So it's like an introspection for the school to understand where they are and what is the scope of their scope for improvement and what are the areas of improvement. So of course, ranking does give that, jubilation and celebration, saying that, yeah, I'm so and so kind of thing. Yeah, at the same time, it might attract a kind of, unhealthy competition within the organization and outside also. Because I just will give you one example. Okay, there was a huge cat fight in one ex-school, I don't want to mention, in the earlier organization where I worked. We had about 28 schools were there, and a particular school was given certain ranking rather, and the ranking had a lot of components where the principal had to share with each of the department, and the departments blamed each other and said, it's because of you our institute has got the ranking less, and this unhealthy competition might creep in. Instead saying, you are here, you are good at this, and these are your areas of improvement. Probably it's a kind of reflection which I was mentioning before, reflection, refraction. So I think ranking might attract an unhealthy competition or a kind of vengeance, unseen vengeance is what I feel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now this panel is very much open to the audience. Anyone from the audience would like to ask any questions to any of our panelists, you can be very specific to whom you are addressing this question, or if it is just a general question, then probably any of the panelists can pick up. Yes, ma'am, please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, panel. That was a great discussion right from morning. We were talking about ratings and rankings, and as mentioned by many, stress is a very common factor. But I personally feel is, had we all of us here in this hall, if we didn't have a benchmark, if we didn't have a dream, we wouldn't be here. We would either still be teachers, educators in our own specialized fields, happy teaching, happy learning. But some way, either an external factor drove us or an internal motivation drove us, right? And when we talk about ranking and rating and competition among students, my very personal opinion is the way we put it across. Now, when I talk to my children at school, I tell them, hold each other's hands and all of you go together. So you might all be successful. What one child knows, the other child might not know, but when you're interacting, when you're reflecting, when you're sharing knowledge, everyone will be a success. Not necessarily everyone's going to get a 98% or 99%, but everyone is going to be a success, and you will know that you have contributed to their success. So I prefer this philosophy of Ubuntu. I don't know, many of us would have read it, the philosophy of Ubuntu, where we take everyone along. I'm very fond of that concept. And coming to this QS assessments, two things I would like to very specifically mention because I've been through it. The way it was told to us. We weren't made to feel as though we were going on a firewalk with a lot of stress and a lot of people hovering over us and watching us. Through the process, we realized we were introspecting and we were benchmarking ourselves. We've traveled a journey, we know how much we've come, and we know how much more we have to go. I really have to mention Sejal, thank you so much for kickstarting that on a very pleasant note, and Dr. Pariniti, who was our analyst. When she would, give back the feedback or say that, Bharti ma'am, there's an interim report coming, there was not an extra bit of added stress or emotion over there. It was very plain, simple, and I thought that was very dignified. When we get, now the way I give feedback to my students, children, this term, it's been terrible, you've got to improve. No. I think we are passing on our stress to them. You say, child, you've done well, and I think definitely there's much more you can achieve, and I know you're capable of it. I'm sure we all understand the difference. So it's up to us how we give it to our children. And stress, as ma'am and all of us mentioned, it's become such a commonly used word. It's just passed on to our kids. Stress, depression is conveniently passed on to the kids because they find everyone using it. And many kids wouldn't even find or know the meaning of it. So why don't we all, when we approach a problem or tell kids about examinations or assessments or whatever they're taking up, put it in a nice way. When we're talking about mental health and all that, children, we know you're going through it, we are with you. Be with them through the process, and believe me, it's magical. Just make them believe that, whatever they're doing there, it's right, and make them believe that the universe or God never makes mistakes. And to make them realize that they're unique is an excellent way to benchmark for themselves. So what QS is doing or what SCOF is doing is an external endorsement of what we are doing, but make the child or even ourselves believe that, we have our own benchmarks. Kishore Da was mentioned. When he sang a few songs, he became extremely popular. But he knew that some of his songs didn't go very well. So he knew that if one song hasn't gone well, there's another song by which I'm going to reach out to the hearts and minds of everyone. So let's make the entire process for ourselves, for our children, for our colleagues and educators, a very pleasant and a happy experience. Not make them feel a firework, never. And believe me, the change is magical. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thanks for, I buy your point completely. Like, if we were not really concerned with benchmarking, probably we wouldn't be sitting here for this, in this conclave today, this afternoon. So thank you so much. And in fact, when you mentioned about Kishore Da, I'll just quickly add on one more point. Like, sometimes we need to raise our own bars, raise on our own standards. There was a song which Kishore Da, in fact, had refused to sing, which is one of the very popular songs. And he said, no, I cannot sing this song. And Rahul Dev Burman, the composer, he said, no, you can sing that song. So you have to, So the song was Mere Naina Sawan Bhado. So after long insistence, what he did, he said, okay, let Lata Mangeshkar sing it first. I'll listen to her records. I'll practice it at home. And Kishore Da did it. He practiced the song overnight, listened to it completely like more than 100 times during the night. And then next day he was in the studio to sing this. So he took it as a challenge. So sometimes we need to raise our standards. And there are a lot of such examples, as you said, not just like when it comes to Kishore Kumar. He was not a classical singer. So there are a lot of such examples with him, but I buy your point completely that yes, benchmarks sometimes we need to set up for ourselves so that we can raise our own bars of those higher standards. Anyone else in the audience?
Ashish, I have a question. Sure. I have an observation actually to what Dr. Abhinasa said. The equivalent to what you just talked about in a corporate world would be called annual appraisal. This is something which probably everyone would like to try and avoid, but then this is happening year on year. Unfortunately, you never get to know what the other person does. You just get to know what you have not done right. Now, isn't it more, opening ourselves to assessment and potential evaluation by ourselves rather than being ranked, rated, whatever be the name that we call ourselves, just knowing where we stand. Each of us have certain strength and some of us probably do not have the strength. Like ma'am said, one of the things I do agree is that, people can play to your weakness and they can cover your weakness up. So, your strength could be that. But instead of being negative about it, wouldn't it be possible for a mindset, or should it not be possible for us to bring a mindset in terms of taking this as a appraisal, in other words?
Thank you so much for extending that conversation. I just would like to add something. I would like to ask the entire quorum that is present here, have you read this book by M. Ramchandran, where he says, change cannot be given to you every time, you must bring the change. Has anyone read that? Sure? Okay. I repeat, change cannot be given to you every time, you must bring the change. K. Ramchandran. Has anyone read the book? Have you read, sir? Sorry. This K. Ramchandran was the conductor of the bus which goes from Chennai Central to T. Nagar, and he was a bus conductor. He was not talking about the change, he was talking about the change, just on a lighter note. Okay? And he has never written a book, he's just a bus conductor. So what sir was asking was like, when you're running a race of 100 meter, when you know that you have finished 90 meters, you should at least know how many meters you have to finish. So that personalized, benchmarking. Personalized benchmarking is very essential. Like sir was saying, in a corporate world, they say like, here is where you stand on a scale of 5, you scored 3.5, so this is your appraisal. So talk personal, because the success of an organization or an entity depends on the collective success of each of the individuals of the organization, whether it be school or college or a corporate world. So why don't we speak to each one of them and say, see, here you have done well. Yeah, appreciate them. Don't say ki tu isme kam hai. So if doctor were to display all our blood reports on the display board of the hospital and say ki B. Ebenezer has only 10 mg of hemoglobin, I don't feel like looking at it while others are watching it. If he tells me, boss, your hemoglobin is low, take some iron supplements, I'll be more than happy. So speak to person, because it's the individual who has to contribute at the end of the day to give the collective success of that organization. Thank you so much.
So I just want to reiterate what my colleague here said. I too have gone through the benchmarking journey with QSI Gauge, and we've been doing that internally for many years at school. We do reflection, we do SWOT analysis, and we thought, why not do an external audit? And let me tell you, the external audit with QSI Gauge was something which was not only a reflection, but introspection, but it was also feedback for us, because they have a system of hand-holding you. They give you an interim report which shows you where you stand and allows you even to give evidence in case you do not agree with what they are stating as your rating. So you have the opportunity to provide further evidence and keep improving. So that's what I agree with Ashish Bhatnagar when he says that you should be competing with yourself. Keep raising the bar for yourself and make sure that competition goes beyond, and reflect, introspect, and carry on with the good work that you all are doing. I think benchmarking is very, very significant, both internal and external. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got one more hand raised. Okay, all right.
I would like to second that thought, because at SSVM, again, when we went through this benchmarking process and the whole process with QS, it was such a wonderful experience for us, because although it was rigorous, I think all of us would agree here, it was a rigorous process, but I think it was a significant time and moment for us to look back at our practices. And some of the, I think times we have not had documentation probably set to provide those evidences, but that was again a reflection for us to start creating those and showcase what our efforts have been like and see what we're really good at. And let's say, for example, we're telling our children to do better than you were yesterday, and rather than being better than others. And that's exactly what we should be practicing in our schools as well. So let's not try and compete with each other, but see how we can be better than how we were yesterday. So exactly that, and thanks to QS for giving this opportunity.
On how the school has actually taken it, I really appreciate that. I have a very meta-level reflection. As educators, if you look at, unfortunately, I think we measure what we can, but we don't measure what we ought to. That's something which you need to reflect on. I'm saying this in this context of, I'm sure all of you would look at the universal and global benchmark is PISA, right? And I'm just taking this perspective. If you look at PISA, the top ranked nations, on one hand you have Finland, which has no assessment at all. There's absolutely no benchmarking, no assessment at all. and you have South Korea, which cramps on exams, right? Now the choice is, if you want to get benchmarked, either you take the Finland route or you take the South Korea route. That's a question we need to look at. That's one. This is a reflection for us that are we really measuring what we want to measure, or are we measuring what is convenient for us to measure? I'm going to put the panelists and the moderator into a spot now. If you have to benchmark this panel discussion, would you want to do it, and do it against what? Number one. Number two, for the panelists, do you want to be rated, do you want to be ranked, or do you want to be happy that you contributed?
So that is exactly what I've been trying to drive in, like why should we be told what we are? I know I've contributed and I'm happy about it. Flying all the way from Coimbatore and going back home brings a lot of satisfaction. Thank you, Sejal.
And from my side, I'm ready for anything.
Yeah, as you said, maybe we take Finland route or we take the South Korean route. It's fine. I mean, there is...
If you take it in the past to...
It's an individual choice that you make.
No, we are not going to be judgmental here. Yeah. See, we have been contributing, and that's for a noble cause, right? So that's okay. That's it.
Everyone on the panel contributed. We don't really need to be judged or marked because, see, anyways, that's not, probably we won't be, on the same panel again, or God knows. But again, like, I think those benchmarking standards, probably what we are talking of for an institution are different from an individual, what we are here at the moment. So I think those institutional benchmarks cannot be compared with what we are doing as a discussion here on this table today. Yeah.
A couple of observations. One, of course, the discussion started with whatever you want to manage, it has to be measured. And then Madam said, if you want to measure, then you will monitor, then you will control finally, and then performance. But also we must remember, whatever you want to measure can also be managed or manipulated. Right? In the context of Indian, at least the assessment systems that we have seen, there is enough and more in the public domain that a lot of manipulation is happening. That is number one. Number two, recently UGC has come out with a new guideline for the PhD scholars. Earlier there was a stipulation that the scholar should publish some papers. Now they have completely abolished. It is based on some evidence of a couple of studies. One study where there is a sort of a benchmark or we call it as a benchmark or a target, whatever. There was stipulation that research scholars should publish. They have taken another institution where there is no such stipulation, but the publication is happening. Where there was stipulation, they found 60 to 70% of them were in spurious journals. And where there was no stipulation, quality of the publications were very good. Right? So, basically the point I'm trying to drive at is, sometimes benchmarks for the purpose of rankings and ratings can also lead to some manipulation of data. That, number one, I wanted to make a very, very important point. Number two, as far as the higher education institutions are concerned in India, I am not very sure whether there were any studies made and case studies written on benchmarking for different parameters. I know for industry, it has been there. The reason why benchmarking may not be so effective is, I think somebody in the panel said, we are human. Whereas in industry, everything is done by machines. So if I have to benchmark how much of capacity utilization I have to have my plant, or how many units to be produced per hour or per shift, much easier, inanimate. But I think where you want to deal with human, I think most of the discussion in from morning, everybody said welfare, wellness, payment, faculty and all that. The more and more metrics you bring, more and more measures you bring, who gets hammered, who gets sandwiched this entire higher education or the school education, the teacher. The managements are fine, the students and parents are fine, who gets hammered and hammered are the faculty. So whatever the benchmarks you want to talk, what are the ratings and rankings you are referring to, please remember, ultimately the change is brought by the teacher, not by the management, not by the parent. It is the teacher who makes a significant influence and importance in that. And if, as long as you don't take care of that, all this is not going to work. This is my submission. Thank you.
I completely agree. And all can give a big round of applause to all the teachers who have been contributing to this nation. And of course, sir, the point that you made is like manipulations probably and managing things when it comes to these institutions and benchmarkings. I completely agree with you. This is happening in higher education. In fact, I'm also aware of certain colleges and universities who've got NAACS A rating or A plus ratings, and I know their standards, right? I mean, and I personally know these universities and their owners. So I can definitely vouch for it that yes, there is something wrong somewhere, manipulations are being done. But that doesn't essentially mean that it's happening everywhere. And it's not just industry. When you said about products, like, see, when you talk of service sector, industry is one, okay, you said per hour, how many units you are doing. But what about service industry? Hospitals. Hospitals is service industry, right? Hospitality, like hotels, service industry. Education, we are into service, right? So basically when it comes, yes, we can always have some benchmarks and some standards set. Like I'll just give you my own example. We are going through QS, iGauge ratings right now. And I'll tell you, I thought probably this is going to be, and in fact this is for everyone here. It's going to be a straightforward process. But trust me, this process is going on for now probably more than 9 months, I believe, right? Why? Because, we thought it might be, as you said, maybe manipulations or just giving up, like filling out some data. There has been so much of back and forth with QS, their parameters, their evidences. They were, I mean, there were no manipulations, of course, and it was not even possible. Because of their parameters. They needed evidences, certain evidences. I mean, I've just listed them, a few of them here, that when you are doing some things, and we were doing it, it really helped us. As I think Shrisha, like from SSVM, she just mentioned about documentation. There were a lot of things we as a school we were doing, but we were not documenting it, so these kind of benchmarking standards, they do sometimes, direct us into the right direction. That yes, you need to document it, you need to have concrete and solid evidences when it comes to, any kind of external audits and all. I'll tell you, we've been doing a lot when it comes to, I'll start with the inclusivity and diversity, which we are, tackling at our school. But, okay, we have an inclusions policy because it's a mandate. And right now, I'll tell you, we are also going through IB's evaluation. We have the evaluation due in March. Now, this getting involved with QS, in fact, it helped us immensely to even look into some of the IB's requirements. Like I'm sure Rajesh sir knows very well what are, and IB is pretty strict, with its mandates when it comes to, their policies, like assessment policy or integrity, academic integrity and all. So there cannot be any manipulations there. So when it comes to this, so we had these policies anyways in picture. So inclusivity and diversity, they needed evidences. How are we doing it, right? So that way, community service. I'm a Rotarian and I've worked with Rotary clubs. So, we've started an Interact club at our school. And this Interact club is doing a lot of community projects. They have to do at least 2 major projects. And this is just an information for everyone. Last year, my Interact club did 2 projects. One was for deaf and dumb school, where they developed a school playground, 4.5 lakh rupees. The fundraising was done by Interactors. And today, I can proudly tell you that they collected 4,10,000 rupees. They're still short of 40,000 rupees. But they collected 4,10,000 rupees for a playground for deaf and dumb school in Erode. And they also built a library for, a government school. So these were the projects we were doing. Okay, we had a little bit of documentations, but yes, then, of course, with QS things, we had to formalize a lot of things. School trips, infirmaries, hostel facilities, and whatever we had, students' achievement, staff achievement, PTA policies, student exchange policies, which we have, like internal, external, domestic, foreign. So there were so many things which actually had to be documented, produced as evidence. So I can tell you what QS has been doing, and in fact, my experience with QS so far has been outstanding. And the only thing is, I pitched in very late, because I left it for my team to do a lot of tasks. And as I said, like it's going on for 9 months now, right? So I pitched in last month. I said, no, it's enough now, so let's do it. And when I pitched in, we slowly gathered all the evidences again, and whatever feedback was given to us from QS, they were very, very, like transparent in telling us clearly insufficient evidence. No evidence provided here. So that is what, I was looking for my own improvement. I had no competition with any other school. Trust me.
No, what you're talking about, sir, is Kaizen. What you're talking about is self-improvement. Right, is a continuous improvement. And I must tell this in this forum, QS is very different from them. They are very, very good in hand-holding you to improve your performance.
Exactly,
right?
self-improvement,
I'm not
yes.
pointing to QS when I said that. You have already got it right. You've said some universities, this, that, and all.
Yes.
QS, I think that ma'am has said that. They are extremely, extremely customer-oriented. They are very good at helping you to improve your own quality. And then that is why they said their badge is not a rank. They are rating body. And therefore, their outlook and philosophy for all this quality quest is completely different.
Exactly. It's a rating thing system, not a ranking system. So obviously, that adds value to our own institution. Probably it gives an insight for us to look into where we are and how to actually raise our own standards. Yes.
I think one point he's talked about is the stress level to, I think everything boils down to the teacher's level stress, right? And whether once you start, especially this ranking process, maybe even to some extent in the rating process, once you have certain layers, the pressure comes down to the teacher, right? That's where Madam was telling, Chitra Madam was telling, it's about the passion what the teacher builds. The stress is certainly directly related to the passion we have. Even businessmen have stress and all that. We feel the stress less because we are more passionate towards it. I think the teaching community has to be inculcated with the passion, and then the stress level will come down to a large extent. And that, when it comes to these kind of processes, how it can be done is we have to make them agree. We have to first evangelize the importance. We have to make them agree, accept, and then implement some of these processes. Then the stress levels might be lesser, is my thinking.
Sir, very rightly said. Thank you so much. But I think you all know the statistics. I'm sure you are in the higher education sector. How many higher education institutions in this country pay the UGC scales? How many higher education institutions in this country allow all the facilities that UGC stipulated norms are implemented?
Even,
Sir,
government institutions don't pay.
One second.
That's not a benchmark, right?
No, one second, sir. You are expecting the name of a teacher being a nation builder, you are expecting an underpaid teacher to have a higher passion than anybody else. I think that is unfair.
It's as if you are saying a businessman who is making a loss will never have a patient, right? It's not that way. It's not related to money.
No.
Passion is about the involvement in what you are doing. Sir, it's not about money.
All of us talked about first is survival, then understanding, then quality, then excellence. Now, I think today many institutions, the teachers are in this survival mode. Please understand, I'm not interested in debating this, but that is a fact of life.
I completely agree with you. Of course, no debates here. Yes, there are a lot of teachers who are probably underpaid. Yes, it's all up to different school managements, how they look at it, their perspective, and how best they can help. Probably we can have one or two.
The platter is full.
Yeah.
We're extending the platter full. What is your perspective to it? What actually are you looking out of it? What is your priority and your vision that will maybe take it forward? I think incremental improvement has to be a culture in the school. A way of doing things.
Correct. Absolutely right. I think.
But sir, if the chair permits, I want to make an appeal.
Yeah,
we
sure.
are an institution which are a leading case writer in the business studies. We are next to Harvard in the whole world. We are number 2 in the world. Harvard is the first. Number 2 we are. Number 3 is INSEAD. And benchmarking and education literacy is a very apt topic that you have chosen. And if any one of you want to collaborate with us to write case studies in benchmarking, we are more than happy to collaborate with you.
I'll be the first one to do that. All right. Thank you so much for that. Yes, ma'am.
Namaste, everybody. I'm Poonam Mishra from the Kalyani School, Pune. So basically, I wanted to take a moment to share my journey with QS. It all started in the month of April. Let me tell you that we are 8 years old. This is our 9th year, school's 9th year. And we are among the top 3 schools in Pune. And we have been recognized by various education bodies and organizations. But, in the month of April, our director, Mrs. Diksha Kalyani, brought this to us and she said, we are going for QS accreditation. And she called for a core team meeting and then she said that, get ready. And we were actually wondering, we have a core team of 10 people. We have coordinators at every level. I am the senior school vice principal, but we have coordinators at every level for each, 2 grade, like grade 1 and 2 and then 3, 4, 5. We have people taking care of specific areas. And we were like, wondering that 8 years have passed and now we are all settled and well established. Why should we go for QS? But yes, we were wrong there. We realized that in the next month when we started working on QS requirements, and we started in the month of April and we had break for students and teachers in the month of May. And only core team sat together to work on it, reading every point and getting the evidences from concerned departments, collating it, introspecting, making our own points for improvement. Whichever parameters were not applicable to us, we started with, our own plan to work on the, improvement. The first cycle got over in the month of May. Then again, after a few months, we got the notice that certain evidences are not sufficient. We need to have meeting, we need to discuss. And then we were also not very satisfied because we didn't want to become complacent. We also asked for clarifications as to why so-and-so rating has been given and why, what is the, area of improvement and all that. And we connected with Mr. Balaji. We have someone else, with whom we were collaborating in the month of May. So, when we got to understand the depth of it, we were very, very happy because, I feel that, the panel has been discussing the same thing since morning, that there has to be certain benchmarking and we realized that, yes, it was a wise decision to go for this benchmarking. We have been given diamond category, but we have certain pointers to work upon and, I'm sure after 2 years, we'll be at Platinum Plus. Thank you, Team QS, for all the cooperation extent. Thank you, everybody.
All the best for your batch. And yes, we've got one more. Yeah.
So I represent a school called Guardian International School in Chengalpattu. So I just want to add this dimension of parents' feedback and capturing how to get the best out of the feedback. We have started benchmarking the ideas emanating from the parents, especially the poor parents, and more especially the moms who have never gone to colleges. They are the most active participants in the PTA and open discussions. So of late, we have found that they bring out the best of qualitative suggestions for improvement of the schools. And they are the best they have not gone to college, they don't have any formal higher education. But they are the best to give the metrics for what makes a good teacher. Of late, we have started, learning everything from the mothers, especially the poorest, because they spend 90% of the time with the children, unlike the fathers or unlike other educated working moms. So I think this is a very important element in future, especially the urban, semi-urban, rural moms, who are more aspiring to bring up the kids to the highest level, will contribute. I think this element will play a major role in the coming days. This is my, learning in the last 3 to 5 years.
Thank you. हिंदी में वो कहते हैं ना कि माँ एक बच्चे की प्रथम गुरु होती है, right? तो एक माँ से ही बच्चा सबसे ज़्यादा पहले सीखता है, and I think it's very apt that probably you are taking a lot of learnings by involving the mothers, listening to their feedbacks. I think that's really helpful. Probably a lot of us, they do this because probably it's the moms who are more connected, especially when it comes to, their children's studies. And I completely agree with, like, 90% of the mothers are more involved into the children's education rather than the fathers. So I completely take your point. Anyone else in the audience?
I should thank
Yeah, sure.
the QS team, IGOJ. I represent Secretariat School, Moga and Marthandam. Actually, we submitted the audit. There was shortage of some evidences. They were so friendly that they messaged us. So these are the shortcomings. They gave us time to resubmit it, and later the rankings were updated. So I should be very I take this opportunity to thank the QS team. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I can second that because, as I said, even we are doing it, and we've been getting some very constant, support from Team QS, and this support is really helping us, and it helped us actually. Now we are done with all our submissions.
Thank you. And just to add, Ashish sir, I think Sacred Heart International School was the first in Tamil Nadu to take that step. That yes, we are open to take the assessments. Any individual who wants to get assessed is always, going to think 10 times because the weakness is pointed out as an individual or anybody. But they were the first ones in Tamil Nadu to take that step. And if you talk about Punjab, the second branch of theirs, they were again first there to take that up. So I think kudos to the team for, taking the step. Thank you so much.
So, Ashish sir, with your permission, I just wanted to add the importance of self-assessment and rating or ranking or self-benchmarking. I think all of us know about this school called SecMol. Has anyone heard of it, SecMol? No. Now if I say Sonam Wangchuk, does anyone get this name? Funsuk Wangdo, now you know.
Three Idiots, yeah.
So SecMol does it every year, sir. SecMol is actually the students' educational cultural movement of Ladakh, started by Sonam Wangchuk and his friends in Ladakh, where they say ki we are comparing ourselves with ourselves from what we were yesterday and what we are today and what we have to do tomorrow. So this self-assessment has really worked with SecMol, and we take pride that such school exists in India. And believe me, every year they conduct 8 campaigns. Now there are more schools outside India who are coming in batches, 8 camps. Out of 8 camps, 6 camps are outside India, where 28 students per batch from other countries, they come and understand how this internal assessment or internal benchmarking for SecMol works. Probably we can take pride in it. At the same time, we can also emulate the same thing in our schools. So probably you can Google out, you get a lot of information about that SecMol, Sonam Wangchuk, and the school at Ladakh.
Sir, so thank you for bringing that up. In fact, we had the privilege of hosting Mr. Sonam Wangchuk at our school very recently. And it was such a eye-opener for us because all the failure students, basically who we label as students who fail, are the ones who get an admission in SecMol. And basically he also mentioned that whoever is able to do better or score high are the ones in the wait list. Right, so that was a beautiful thing, and as a school, I think this is, all of you might know that this is a school that is a Three Idiots movie fame as well, and Mr. Sonam Wangchuk, and they've been doing a lot of initiatives actively on climate change recently, and working on active global issues. So that's an inspiration for all of us to take. They in fact made a whole glacier in Leh Ladakh, and that was possible through working with the whole community and working with the whole ecosystem. So that's definitely an inspiration for all of us. So thank you.
Do you have benchmarking, sir, for your own standards? Because you are fixing some standards for all other institutions. Do you have any benchmarking?
Ashish is not. I'm not from QS. I think probably Ashwin would have been the better person to answer you. I'm just co-moderating the session because of Ashwin's absence. I mean, Probably Sejal can take it, or I don't know if, I mean, Robin, yeah.
So we'll very soon have the governor here, our honorable governor here, and the minute she's here, we would request all of you to stand and give a big round of applause for her and welcome her with that. So till that, we would continue with a few more deliberations on how and where are we going to go ahead with.
I really feel sad for the first panel. They didn't get this much time.
No, they did.
Yeah.
I think we had equality there.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have Rajesh from QS who will be answering your
Since Ashwin
question.
is not
Yeah.
here, I'll probably take the question on behalf of Ashwin in a very limited way. Yeah, we have benchmarks to the different divisions that we work. So depending on the kind of product or the service that we sell, there are different standards that we adhere to. For example, I'm specifically in charge of SaaS products of QS. So we do adhere to GDPR standards and QS standards. So there are benchmarks that we adhere to.